If you enjoy watching our stories, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you. USA Warrior Stories is a not-for-profit organization designed to record, archive, and share videos of veteran stories, to help veterans make a connection with one another and to help us all better understand their sacrifices for our freedoms.
These planes could talk, what would they say? How would they say it? And would we listen?
Todd Erskine, CAF, Vero Beach, take one.
So my name's Todd Erskine. I'm a volunteer with the Commemorative Air Force. I'm actually the tour leader here at Vero Beach for our tour stop. So the Commemorative Air Force started in 1957. It was really just a small group of friends who wanted to preserve their World War II aviation history. They started out with a single P-51 named Red Nose, which is still part of the CAF today. It's from that one group of friends that started out. It's ballooned up to, there's 85 units across the United States and even 1 or 2 units internationally. So our mission is to educate people about World War II, aviation history in World War II, to honor those who served in World War II, and to inspire younger generations about careers in aviation and aviation history in general. The headquarters today is in Dallas, Texas. That's where the B-29, B-24 squadron is headquartered also. But the CAF in general exists because of the volunteers that contribute their time and energy to keep these birds flying and keep the history alive. Yeah, the CAF doesn't get any government funding. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We exist based on the volunteers and contributions of the public. Of the 85 units throughout the country, most of them have a flying aircraft of some sort. You know, a lot of them may just be single aircraft. They're not always as large as the B-24 or the T-6. Of B-29s flying, there's only 2 left in the world today that are flying, B-29 Fifi and B-29 Doc. So this B-24 behind me is the oldest B-24 you're probably going to find. It's serial number 18, the 25th ever built, and it's one of only 2 that still fly. As you can imagine, it takes countless hours of maintenance and hard work to keep these 80-year-old aircraft flying. It took a lot of maintenance in World War II also, so that's all part of keeping the history alive. So more and more we try to focus on educating, especially the young people, and the history of World War II. Those that actually served in World War II are becoming fewer and fewer in numbers. We have actually a local group of 7th and 8th graders coming out to see us at this tour stop before we leave, and we hope to inspire them with the airplanes and you know, that inspiration. It provides motivation for them to do things that they didn't think maybe they could do.
This is called the elevator horn. What it does is it assists you when you move the elevator. The wind pushes down and helps you move it. So you're not fighting against the wind all the time. So it's called a horn. You'll see the horn up there.
The students can kind of see and learn from the experiences of these pilots who had all these things running in all these past events. I'm so grateful that we were able to make contact and be able to work on this trip. Hopefully give these students some inspiration. It's an exciting day for them.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, there is a large percentage of our organization that that did serve in the military, especially our pilots. A lot of them were trained in the military.
My name is Brad Haskin. I'm from Seattle, Washington. I'm a flight engineer on the B-24 Diamond Lil. My background is I'm a retired naval aviator. I flew P-3s in the Navy, so I have experience flying large 4-engine bombers. This is actually smaller than what I flew in the Navy. But this is my third year on the tour, and we take the B-24 around. Right now we're on a tour of Florida, and then we're going to have a small break, and we'll end up spending basically from May through the end of October taking the airplanes on the road and showing them off to everybody. Diamond Lil is to my knowledge, is the oldest 4-engine aircraft that's flying in the world right now. Hand-built in 1941, and this was built before Ford started mass producing the airplanes. You know, at one point in their Michigan manufacturing plant, they were able to churn out just one after another, like one airframe every 30 minutes. They'd push them out the door. This was not built that way. So, you know, it's kind of cantankerous. You got to take really good care of it. We have another airplane in the squadron that's one of 2 flying B-29 Super Fortresses left. It's personal for me. My dad flew B-29s in the Air Force. He was one of the last flight engineers on B-29s in the Air Force. So my brother and I fly these airplanes for the squadron, so it's kind of a full circle type thing for us. That airplane was quite interesting because at the time there were no flying B-29s left, and the organization was searching basically all over the world to try and find an example that we could save, just to save one of them. And we found, I want to say there were like 30 airframes that were sitting out at a target range out at China Lake in California being used as bomb targets. And we were able to make arrangements with the Department of Defense. They told us, you can go in, you have this amount of time, you can fix one, you can basically scrounge parts off all the other airplanes to create one flyable airplane, and you have to fly it out. And once you take off, you cannot come back. So they actually went down to the hardware store when it was ready to fly out, and they painted the name of the organization, they painted the museum name on the side of the airplane, because they knew that if they had to do an emergency landing somewhere, it was going to stay there. And they wanted people to know that that was their airplane. But as it was, first time in like 30 years that the airplane had flown, they took it off out of the desert and flew it nonstop from China Lake, California to Harlingen, Texas.
What year was this?
That's 1971, I believe. And then it took another 4 years to go and restore it. And for many, many years, several decades, it was the only flying B-29 in the world. My brother and I got involved in this because we had the conversation of why not us? Because somebody has to do it. But I know that, you know, in our tent over here, they've got toy airplanes. And every time I see, you know, a 5-year-old boy or a 6-year-old girl playing with a little airplane, I'll go over and talk to them. You know, wow, hey, why don't you tell me about your airplane? I want to get that interest kindled because I want to make sure that what we're doing here today is something that there is another generation 25, 30 years down the road that is still keeping all of these airplanes in the air and taken around. And so that a family can come out and say, hey, my great-grandfather flew on these airplanes, you know?
I've been flying with the Commemorative Air Force for about 10 years now, since 2013, and I'm a pilot on our B-24 and B-29, and get to fly a lot of our smaller trainer aircraft as well. I'm an instructor pilot on our B-24 here, and the youngest captain we have on our B-29. Yeah, there were over 18,600 B-24s built, and this is serial number 18. So it's a very early model. May 1941 is even, you know, a few months before Pearl Harbor, and in the first 1,000th of B-24s produced. produced, and one of only 2 airworthy examples today, with another maybe 25 or 30 static in museums around the world. This airplane's 83 years old, so the 20-year-olds that were flying it in their prime, there's fewer and fewer of those around every day, but we do get really excited when the people who did it, what we call for real, came out and get to share some of their stories and artifacts and photos and stuff with us. And a lot of times they'll come out with their families, and seeing the airplanes for the first time will open them up, and the families will hear stories and hear about people that they've never spoken about. But it brings back a lot of emotions and memories for them that their family may not have been familiar with before. Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. I like to use the analogy of we all like airplane museums. Everybody out here doing it loves static airplane museums, but it's the difference between seeing a taxidermied stuffed lion in a hotel lobby and seeing one on safari out in Africa somewhere. You know, we're out here doing it for real. It's enough work to fly on nice sunny days like this for a half hour at a time giving rides that it really puts into perspective what those men and women back in the 1940s were doing. We never really have to fly these airplanes, but back then they pretty much had to fly these airplanes, and all we have to do is fly them safely on nice weather days, and it really lets us kind of relate to some of the stories that we hear from that time in a very special way. I think every year in public schools, at least, they talk less and less about World War II. And keeping these airplanes alive helps share that story to the younger, newer generation as to why we're not speaking German or Japanese today. And this airplane can tell that story. And we have no intention of stopping anytime soon. The airplanes are 83 years old. This one in particular, at least, is 83 years old, and she's in the best shape of her life. And we're going to be doing this for a while, if we can help it.
Yeah, my name is Kevin Price. We're here at Vero Beach, Florida. I've been flying with the Commemorative Air Force since 2009, so about 14 years. I've been flying with this tour group for about 2.5 years now. The airplane that I fly is this North American AT-6. This plane was built strictly as a trainer within the United States. This plane in particular trained a group of pilots called WASPs. WASP stands for Women's Air Service Pilots. It was a group of about 1,100 female pilots that were trained between 42 and 44 to fly pretty much every aircraft in the U.S. arsenal, from everything down to the smallest trainers up to the B-29. So they flew everything in between, start to finish, soup to nuts. This plane in particular flew out of Avenger Field, and we have had WASP pilots over the years who flew this particular airplane. What they demonstrated was they broke all the barriers. Whatever unfortunate biases existed, they demonstrated that they were just as good as any man that could fly them. They were excellent pilots. This is a real privilege for us to come out and be able to fly these airplanes. My grandfather was a World War II veteran, and our motto within the Commemorative Air Force is educate, honor, and inspire. So we want to educate the public about these airplanes and about that generation. We want to honor that generation, and then we want to inspire new people to come into aviation. So this plane will go back to Sweetwater, Texas on April 29th every year for an annual reunion of WASPs. So we're hoping maybe we can find some more who actually flew this airplane and can give us some signatures.
This is a fantastic plane, and you're lucky to be a part of it, and thank you for being part of it.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out, and thanks for helping us get the word out.
If you think about it, World War II was one of the most significant events in human history, and it shaped the world we live in, and I think it's important to learn that history, to know that history. That's a big part of why we do what we do, is to honor our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, and tell their story through these airplanes. I'm thankful to do this for USA Warrior Stories because I think they do a great job telling the stories that they run across as well.